Welcome, advocates, to another episode of the Leading Equity Podcast, a podcast that focuses on supporting educators with the tools and resources necessary to ensure equity at their goals. Today's special guest is Shawna Wells. So without further ado, Shauna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I'm excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking all about technology, where things were when we were kids and where things are now for our current kids. And but before we get into that, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what you currently do.
Yes, sure. Well, so I'm a 76ers fan. I can't get rid of it. Sometimes that's good for me. Sometimes it's not. But I start there because it's the longest identity I think I've held in addition to Black woman. And I'm a mom. I'm a friend. I'm a 20-year educator. I can't believe that because I still try to act like I'm 20 on some days. And I'm the CEO of a company called 7Gen Legacy Group, which gives me the opportunity to talk with leaders across the country about their legacies, the legacies that they aim to live and leave, which is a major disruption to how we talk about our impact. We talk a lot about generational impact, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how you live it every day. And I'm the CEO of B is for Black Brilliance, which is a portion of my legacy.
All right. Well, first of all, shout out to AI, the question, the answer. That guy, I do remember those days. I was a big AI Allen Iverson fan, so I give you some love. I'm a Rockets fan. Okay, just I'll throw it out there, just to be clear. I'm always going to be a Rockets fan. However, I used to love Allen Iverson, so I'll throw that out there.
Practice. We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice.
Not the game. Not the game.
You got jokes. Okay. All right. So you mentioned B is for Brilliance, and I would love for you to share with our audience. Tell us what that is.
Yes. So B is for Black Brilliance is a company that works alongside caregivers. We consider caregivers everyone who cares for children. We're all caring for our children. They're all watching us. So that's everybody from aunties, uncles, parents, nephews, other kids, and teachers, principals. All of us have a responsibility to raise the next generation of Black and brilliant humans. So what we do is we build out resources and tools to support caregivers as they center a conversation around Black brilliance. And we do that because we believe the narrative has been contained over time. And if we can tell a new story about Blackness in this country, then we can allow ourselves to break down the containers that keep us bound and show our brilliance. We believe Black brilliance is everywhere, and that story doesn't get told as often as it should. So that's our work.
Is that the book behind it? I like how you set that up there.
Yeah. It's always up there. Sometimes it falls down and I feel like it's my ancestors talking. They'll be like, no, girl, that's not Black or brilliant. You need to get it together. So yeah, that's the book. It talks about 26 Black and brilliant individuals. I often say, I love the t-shirt you're wearing today. It says Disruptor. I often say our book is a tool for agitation. It's an opportunity for people to have the realization that perhaps they don't know as much about Black stories and the intricacies of who we are and what we do and how we've come to be.
All right. Okay. So I got to show you some love now. You can't be just talking about B is for Brilliance, not talking about the book. So folks, we'll leave links in the show notes so that you can get your copy as well. And obviously, if you want to reach out to Shauna, that information will be in the show notes as well. Now, I'm excited because we're talking about technology. And, before we even hit record, you and I were kind of reminiscing on 56K dial-up and chat rooms. And I remember, what was it? CompuServe was at what I was on for a while, and then it moved into AOL and all these different things. But like chat rooms, for example, were considered like dangerous and all these predators and all these things. And over time, as the generations, as years have gone by, we have seen, dial-up is no longer a thing. We're seeing like internet has changed, and to now we're having a lot more conversations in regards to AI, artificial intelligence, and you got ChatGPT and all these different resources that our current students got their hands on all the time.
Yeah.
And for some of us, we may not be as tech savvy. Some of us are just like, again, we're thinking about it from where we were and our views of technology. So I want to start the conversation with you about what are some ways that we can connect, no pun intended, connect with our students when we're talking about technology?
Yes. Well, I'm laughing too because AI and then AI, we talked about Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
Look at that thread.
Mm-hmm.
I think first and foremost is about seeing it as an opportunity to connect. So oftentimes when I'm in rooms with adults, from principals to superintendents to teachers to parents, they're at odds with technology. Oh, I gotta limit screen time, and I do think you need to limit screen time, but I'm fearful of it, or it's the worst thing ever. And I will remind us that for generations, as innovations have come in, we have always been afraid of it. We've always pushed it away. Going to space, for example, like there was a cohort of people that were like, we shouldn't do that. And here we are. And who knows if we should be in space or not? I don't know. But what I do know is that if we can help our kids see us as tools for conversation around how they're using technology in their everyday lives, then we have a better chance of making sure that we're deeply connecting with their humanity at a young age, and then they can make sense of it over time. So first and foremost is about seeing it as a connection tool as opposed to the enemy.
So it's not the enemy.
It is. I will go on record and say it is not the enemy. It could be something that will. I do think it's a separator. I think it's a divider for sure. Like, I think you can look at all the stats on how it's creating economic divides, particularly for Black and brown people. But also on the other side, I know for me, I lived in my house when I was a kid. Now I can see the world through technology. I can go to the art museum that I wasn't able to go to. I can see the possibilities using technology. So anything can become an enemy, like anything. Kale can become an enemy if we wanted to, right? And so how do we use it and strengthen it and have it be a tool for conversation and connection is the real question I think we can all ask ourselves.
So can I ask you that question then? How can we utilize technology as a tool? Like, I'm curious. As an educator, I want to know.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I gotta say, it's funny that I'm talking about technology because our team would tell you, like, Shauna does not want to Slack. She does not want to be on a thing.
Okay.
And I think part of it is because I want to be in relationship with others. And so we have this framework we use called Brilliant when we talk about AI and talk about technology and talk about fostering conversation as kids are experiencing it. The reason we created the tool was because it was like, well, first we've made this a monster. Let's make it simple. And so let me share with you what Brilliant means. The first part is belonging. So how do we use technology as a tool for belonging? And what are questions we can ask our children to tell us about what belonging actually means? So let me give you an example of one of the questions we might ask. In an online story, and by story, we mean on Instagram, TikTok, whatever you just saw, can you identify the characters that you seem connected to, that you would build community with? And can you identify the ones that you would not? And let's talk about that. That just changes how kids experience technology. They're thinking critically about it. They're seeing all of these new faces. How can I engage with this differently? And how can I foster a sense of belonging, both as a caregiver, someone talking to a child who's experiencing this, and a child thinking critically about what they're seeing in front of them. The second is representation, the R. So we get to talk about, okay, so am I seeing representation of everybody that I want to see or need to see? Do I have the full picture? And with the advent of technology or AI or search functions, we can actually get multiple perspectives. Now we can talk about whether or not the internet has multiple perspectives on it. That's a whole nother conversation, but we can certainly be more intentional about who we bring into the research that we do or the conversations that we have.
So belonging and then representation, I'm assuming there's a word for each letter. Is that?
Yeah.
On track?
You're on track. Okay.
So how do I remember all these things? Because brilliant is a long word, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I know. I know. We're trying to be like trendy, pithy. Here's what I would say is that actually it's about getting into the habit of asking a series of questions. And we'll share with folks what the whole acronym and the questions. But what I do is I'm going to just focus on belonging for the next 2 weeks. And I'm actually just going to ask my kids in the belonging category 2 or 3 questions as they engage with technology to get me in the habit of doing it in the car line, in the 5 minutes I have as the kids are going to the bathroom in school, or in the cafeteria when I'm working with them, or alongside them in the classroom. Like what question could I form in a lesson plan or ask them this to help them really understand their relationship with technology and frankly, mine. Because sometimes when I ask these questions, adults are like, I don't want anything to do with that. And we said earlier, I'm like, if you ain't right, then we can't, the kids ain't right, right? And so how can we journal about that or talk about that or engage in dialogue with one another?
Okay, so I'm curious. So help me form an example in my head, because I hear what you're saying. And I love that there's the acronym, there's questions associated with the acronym. So give me an example. Is it, let's say I'm a history teacher, and do I provide maybe a YouTube video, have the students watch the video and then react or respond to it based off of Brilliant? Is that how this works?
Yeah, you could do that definitely, right? Or, I was just at a board meeting with a few educators, and they said, I don't know, like I give an assignment and kids just come back with, something that's been generated by whatever GPT we're on.
Oh, okay.
And so the question then says, okay, if you know that that's happening, instead of being like, you're in trouble, stop long enough to say, hey, how many voices are represented here? What do you agree with or disagree with? So that our kids can become accustomed to, when they're not with us, when they're getting older, to think critically about, do I really believe this, or am I just cutting and pasting, and why?
So it's okay. So going back, when you said AI technology is not the enemy, were you also kind of referencing ChatGPT? Because I mean, we're seeing a lot of schools that are banning it. We're seeing a lot of districts that are like, don't use it. Seeing a lot of teachers that are frustrated because, like you said, they're generated responses, comments, and things like that are coming in. So is that kind of where we were at initially when we're having that conversation about the enemy?
I think so. Yes. It's interesting too, because if you follow the trend, and I don't know, like I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, if I follow the trend, like I am not the tech person on our team. I will say it again. But I think part of that is because I'm like in this with everybody. I'm like, wait, do I like this? Do I not like this? Here's the deal. The trend shows that GPTs are actually going to be bought by companies. We're watching this happen with Google Docs, for example, or with things that we use in our everyday. Those of us who maybe use Canva to create something for our classrooms, the GPTs are being embedded in those things. It's not going anywhere. So we can ban whatever version is happening, but it's being infused into the population. Like we can ban, just like we could ban fidget spinners. It didn't matter. At some point, it overwhelmed the school. And then it becomes a tool for kids, like being able to channel their energy. ChatGPT is here. So now we have to figure out how we're going to help kids understand it, use it, interrogate it. And we got to do the same thing.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I think I'm hearing, but essentially,
tell me, let's talk about it.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to make sure that what I heard and what I'm interpreting is essentially it's not going anywhere. You are going to get responses from auto-generated type of technology when it comes to your work. The way that we can combat it, or maybe not combat it, but more of harness that technology, is by kind of going through that brilliant structure or some sort of questioning. Okay, what is your response? What do you agree with when it comes to this generated response? Is this where you're at? Are those some of the things that we can help our students, work with?
Yes, I think we can start to build it in. We have to embrace that it's here. Like I get to read these applications for Black girls who are applying to scholarships for college. And as I read these applications, I'm like, it is clear that ChatGPT has been maybe a tool that you have used, because they all look pretty similar to the set of questions I started asking myself around, like, okay, so if they're using it, and if the 18 girls and women that I'm reading these essays from are all using it, how am I going to help them understand what they're doing, what they're using, what perspectives are being built, and then use it to formulate their own thoughts, their own connection with other people, and the opportunity that they have to use this as a resource. And for me to embrace that and open the door for conversation instead of shutting the door, opening it, to use it as a teaching tool.
So I know a lot of people will tell me, or teachers will say, one of the things that we do to encourage our students is if you're going to utilize ChatGPT, utilize it as a starting point. So this is not copy and paste necessarily, but at least gives you some ideas, and then you can utilize that to write in your own words. There's enough prompts that we can put into chat, for example, that can give us something enough to a shell, if you will, or template, and then we can go from there. Is that something that you would encourage? Or because I'm thinking about, like you said, like if I'm reading a scholarship and it's an academic scholarship and I see clearly this is clearly some chat stuff. Is that going to, subjectively, am I going to feel like, oh no, this person does not deserve this scholarship? So I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Yes. Well, let's be real about college essays from people of privilege have been
Okay. Yeah. Right.
written and informed by other people for a very long time. And so like this ain't new. I think part of what we gotta get really disciplined about is how are we teaching our kids to ask the questions of us human to human? And then how does that inform how they ask questions to ChatGPT? And someone I was talking to the other day, they're like, so you're saying ChatGPT could be a thought partner? And I'm like, it could be a helpful thought partner to have in a bedroom at midnight when you're trying to figure out, where can I find this information? Well, why not teach our kids then? Okay, one, it is bias because it's pulling from bias information on the internet. The internet is a biased place. Okay, so if you ask it a question, it's going to give you one type of answer. Do you agree with it? Yes or no? If you agree with it, what can you use or utilize and how can you be in conversation with that information and with other humans to then evolve an opinion over time? And if we can look at it that way, then we can teach our kids to center their own brilliance, to be able to talk with themselves about what do I truly believe. But right now we're cutting that off at the pass because we're saying, I don't want to engage with it. Chat rooms were a scary place. And we're treating ChatGPT as if it's a evolved search engine, and it's definitely not that. So how do we help our kids relate to us and relate to this technology?
I always figure like the irony of it all is a lot of us utilize ChatGPT for lesson planning activities, but then we don't want the students. We don't want the students to send us the chat. Wait. You literally put this lesson plan together.
This assignment.
This wasn't you. I know you. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Wilson, I know this is not how you get down on these lesson plans. Now all of a sudden your lesson plans are on point at this level, but then you don't want me to send you my feedback or assessment information via you don't want me to utilize the same tools. Like, no, this is for me. This as a teacher, this is for me only, but students, no, you can't utilize it. So I think we do need to be fair in a lot of conversations when it comes to how we utilize ChatGPT.
Yes. Well, and you bring up a great point here around it. The fact pattern that we had no longer exists, right? It's not, it is all, it's changed. And so if we take and apply like, okay, we're going to use this for our lesson plans, but we don't allow our kids to have conversations around it, we are literally limiting connection with them. And that's what we're all saying. Like the kids don't get us. Well, they don't get us because we haven't taken the time to connect generationally. And that's part of our responsibility as shepherds for the generation to come. We have to figure out how to generationally connect so that they can use what they have as a set of tools to evolve humanity.
I'm with you. All right. So let's go back to the brilliant structure because we've only touched on belonging and representation. Now, I didn't teach English, but I want to say there's like another 20 letters.
20, come on.
There's at least 20 more letters left. So I want to make sure we don't have so much time. So I want to make sure that seriously. But I because I think this conversation that we're having makes a lot of sense for us to kind of set it up. Because I know there's going to be folks listening to this and it's like, okay, I agree with what Shauna's saying. I agree with Sheldon's saying. I want to utilize Brilliant. And obviously we'll leave links in the show notes so they can get in touch with you directly. But just for the sake of this conversation, I would like to complete the letters there. So run me down the rest of it and kind of give us a little synopsis of how each one kind of relates to each other.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to quickly go through and give a question because I think these questions can help spark other questions. I'm not the holder of all the knowledge, just a way of thinking. So identity. Ask kids, can you recall a story where a character growth the evolution has resonated with you? And by character, what we mean is like somebody on TikTok, somebody on Instagram. Like we have to get into deep analysis about who we are becoming. Legacy. As you engage, how does the game, the app, the technology, how does it honor the contributions of people in the world that have come before you and may come after you? Learning is L. So we're not on letter 20, but we did R-I-L-L. So we're on learning. What's the most fascinating thing that you've learned from ChatGPT, from Instagram, from Facebook even? I know Facebook is like a thing in the past, but can I say that? So what is the thing that you've learned? Inquiry. When you encounter a differing opinion, and this one is especially important. So if you're going to start somewhere, Start with inquiry. When you encounter a differing opinion on digital content, what do? What questions would you like me to ask? What would you like to ask me about it? What do you think I think about it? Like, those types of dialogues are important. And I think in a school setting are really hard these days, because honoring the work of teachers, they have not a lot of time. Yeah. Agency. How might you redesign ChatGPT to encounter more of your brilliance, to encounter more diverse voices? And you can, I'm putting ChatGPT in, but you can put whatever technology you're talking about. And for narratives, have you ever disagreed with a choice someone made on one of our technologies? How would you approach the conversation differently? This is a way of teaching kids to have an opinion about what they're saying, as opposed to just doing what they're saying. And I have a 6-year-old at home. She copies everything I do. And I'm like, okay, but was that for you or was that for me? Right. And then finally, T for talk. And I say this because I think we're forgetting to talk to each other. So what is your reaction to something that somebody said? And how might you talk to them? And this is important because we can talk to people across the world now. DM them about something that is important. DM them about a philosophical thing that you're really thinking about, or how can I learn more information about you balancing an egg on your head? Like, what are the ways in which we can teach kids to use the technologies that they have to create more possibilities, so that they can build out what they believe should be possible in a world that needs them truly. So there we go. We made it. 20 letters.
We made it. See, and we had time left over. I'm curious, can we get, because you kind of answered it, because, when you said talk, that was my first question, was like, are we talking through devices, or were we talking one-on-one physical? Like, how does that look? Like, does it depend? I'm just curious.
No, I see you. So this is us. This is, when we say talk, what we mean is dial up that phone number and call. And if I ask my dad what talk means, he's like, dial up that party line, and call people and or see people in person. And I think part of what we saw when people went remote, they were like, no, we need to be in person. I'm like, maybe, but do you? Like, could you entertain the idea that it is possible to connect in different ways now? And for our kids, for the generation coming, this is a generation that has had more pictures taken of themselves than any other generation. It's a generation that can get in contact at high speeds with people more than, like, remember voicemails? I don't even do voicemails anymore, right? And so conversation has changed, and ignoring that conversation has changed ain't gonna work for us. Embracing that there are more ways to have conversation, ask questions, notice people's how people are responding facially, teaching those things and really coming into contact with that, I think, is where we need to go.
Got you. I agree. I'm with you. I think I missed a letter, because I got belonging, representation. What was that? That first I. Identity, legacy, learning, inquiry, agency, narratives, and talk. Okay. I don't know why. For some reason I missed that first I. So okay. So this is really very informative. So basically, what I'm gathering is, as educators, we should not be afraid of technology and where things are going, especially from the ChatGPT side of things, but we need to embrace it. But we can utilize a framework such as Brilliant to support the work that's happening within our classrooms. Would this be something that we could utilize for maybe a test or exams, or is it maybe you would recommend it from maybe just a homework assignment? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you could use it 3 ways. First is when you are lesson planning, to ask yourself about your own relationship with technology, right? Like, you've got to figure out what is your relationship and what's the conversation you're comfortable having. The second is, we all want to, when I got into teaching, I dreamed of my classroom being a place of dialogue, disagreement, conversation, and I wasn't always good at it. But on the days I was good at it, I was asking questions like these. I was asked, but they were about books. But I was asking questions about, do you agree or disagree with the character? Do you want to have a dialogue with me about what I think about this? Generationally, how does it show up for me? These types of questions can be used to foster dialogue in your classroom. I'd use these questions with my child. And then the third thing is what you named. I would say not just tests, but assessments, ways of seeing how kids are thinking and really pulling in multiple vantage points for them to be able to assess, what do I actually think? What's my opinion? And I think sometimes we don't trust our kids with the information that they can pull together. Like, they're brilliant. And so and they're making sense of the world with or without us.
Got you. So, okay, I'm going to throw this one out here because I want to get your take. I want to get your take. So let's just say, because I know there was a lot. I mean, I remember reading articles all day, every day. It seems like this school or this district has banned it. Do you support advocating for bringing it back, or maybe if bringing it back or just keeping it? Because some schools are on the, they're having the conversations and they're not really sure where to go. Where's your stance? Because it sounds like you're all for it, but do you think if it's been banned already, do you think we should try to have a revisit that conversation?
Spicy. All right. I am all about allowing our kids to have as much information as possible to expose them to the possibilities of the world. I don't believe in banning books. I don't believe in banning our kids from opportunities to see themselves in the world. What I do think we need to do, if we bring it back, is be ready for it. Why did you ban it in the first place? What were you frustrated by? And how can we actually create systems to have conversations with kids about, here's why you don't copy other people's work? Because that's the real root. That's the issue that we're trying to solve. And instead of shutting the door on it, I don't know, when my parents told me I couldn't do something, I was like, great, I will be sneaking out of this window at midnight. Banning isn't helping anybody. It's here. How do we make sure that we take the responsibility of the generation of leaders that we are to pass to the next generation of, here's how you make a sound call in your life. So I am about making sure our kids get exposure to as many possibilities as we can give them so that they can choice make. And a lot of people will say our kids can't choice make. And I would say they absolutely can. Like I never underestimate the power of a good child brain.
I wonder if we'll get to a place where APA and MLA will be cite ChatGPT, like that will be part of what you, because I'm thinking even at the higher ed level or just doing a research paper and I utilize ChatGPT and I can cite, I got this paragraph or I got this quote from ChatGPT, and if that's going to be a conversation down the road, I wonder if it will be a thing. I'm for it. As long as you cite your sources, I'm all about that life. So we'll see.
We'll see. We will see. I mean, I thought when people said technology will one day take people's jobs, I picture industry, robots.
Yeah.
I think what's happening is it's pushing us all to think about our humanity. What does it mean to be a human in this world and to design systems that are connected to our humanity? Who are we as humans, right? Like, I think there's all sorts of questions that are surfacing now as we look at the capabilities of ChatGPT. And they are like, I made my own GPT yesterday to talk like me, to be like, just to see. I was like, what can it do? And I was like, this is pretty dang close.
Yeah. It sounded like you?
Yeah. I was like, it said y'all. I was like, what?
It's scary. That's scary. I remember people were making Drake rap verses.
I'm gonna try that actually. And you could do like a mind meld. You could be like, make it sound like me and Drake.
Yeah. Wow. This is, like you said, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, but there's ways that we can support it in I don't want to say control, but like, I guess more of a structured setting. So based off of kind of your framework and things like that. So I'll say this, Shauna, I've definitely learned a lot from this conversation, and I'd love for you to share maybe a final thought, final word of advice to our listeners out there.
Yes. Thank you. And thanks for having me. It's been fun to think about this. I don't have all the answers is the first thing I'll share. And I think we are human. And when we are humans at our best, we really think about how we can connect with one another. And technology is walking alongside us in that. And if we can view it like that, we can use it as a tool instead of see it as an enemy. So take a risk, ask a question. And instead of telling kids it's not good, pick it up. Like rock and roll music used to be like, nope. Rap music used to be like, nope. This is just one more thing that's coming on the scene that we need to be able to talk with our kids about. And if we take a risk on that, we may just find a connection where we didn't know we had one. So here we go.
Yep. So if we have some folks that want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you online?
Yes. So you can find us on our website, bsforblackbrilliance.com, and on Instagram at bsforblackbrilliance. You can DM me. I'll do my best to reply. You can find me on LinkedIn for our work, our executive coaching work at 7Gen and at Shawna Wells.
All right. Well, folks, we'll leave all the links in the show notes. So thank you again, Shauna. It has truly been a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been fun.